Hey there, Zelda Universe! You are so lucky to be watching this mailbag, because for the first time in ever, I'm going to do the entire mailbag in Link's voice. Check it out. Ha! See? Let's get straight into the first question. Oodles of Noodles asks, what kind of style will be best for Zelda if the usual style of Zelda is scrapped? I think I made it pretty clear in the last mailbag how much I love steampunk. I love steampunk. So, about, when was this? Was it in 2009-ish? There was a rumor about Zelda Wii called Valley of the Flood. It was Zelda set in this future steampunk world, and you didn't play as Link, you played as a Link wannabe. Nintendo's never going to scrap Link. That pretty much debunked that theory completely. But it was really cool. It was just this punk kid who saw that the world was in danger and decided, hey, I'm going to be like Link and go fight things. It's a really neat plot. And I wish Nintendo would do something like that. They're getting kind of closer and closer to steampunk every time they release a game. But they're not there yet. People would be upset if guns were in Zelda. If there's steampunk, there's going to be guns because there are muskets and there are steam guns and things with pipes. Probably Link will have a gun in that kind of game, so Nintendo will probably never release it. Second question. Westel Korok. I can't really pronounce that. Westel Korok? This is his name. He asks, how do you think or hope Skyward Sword's dungeon layout will be done? Such as, the positioning and the items that Link collects. Before I answer that question, there's something I kind of got to tell you about Skyward Sword's dungeon layout. That is known. Nintendo is kind of streamlining the whole let's go to dungeons process. Whereas before it was town, field, dungeon, and it was really obvious because the town was labeled, the field was labeled, and then the dungeon was labeled. Now it's going to be town, field. I'm guessing that the field will slowly become more dungeon-y. So how do I think it's going to be laid out? I'm hoping that there's an even distribution of dungeons between Hyrule and Skyloft. I think it's going to be really interesting to see dungeons below the cloud and above the cloud. I mean, there's got to be, some sort of plot twist. There's always a plot twist, isn't there? All the evil that's in Hyrule goes up above the clouds, or you find out that the evil below the clouds wasn't evil, but it was really above the clouds all along. All along! I hope that happens, because dungeons in Skyloft are probably going to be really cool, and Hyrule is boring. Hyrule, we've been there. How many times have we been to Hyrule? 2, 3, 4, 5. How many Zelda games are there? We've been to Hyrule too many times. Let's do Skyloft things in Skyloft. What kind of items? Hopefully not pieces of something. It seems like whenever I get one of these questions, I just say what I hope it won't be. I don't want to say, oh, Link is going to be collecting another mirror. Lemon heads. Pieces of a sword. More lemon heads. Pieces of a medallion. Pieces of generic inanimate object that somehow has acquired magical properties and is useful for something. Question numbers 3, 4, and 5 are all asked by some punk who thinks he can ask me 3 questions at once. Nintendo. Is that like French? Here are several questions. Pick and choose any you deem worthy. Oh, there will be the picking that occurs here. 1. Since Ocarina of Time, Zelda has used Adult Link a lot. Would you like to see any more new games that go back to Young Link? I'm going to give this some thought. And now I've thunk. And I'm going to say that there have only been like 2 games that use Adult Link in the last decade. Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess. What other games used Adult Link? Everything else was Kid Link, even before Ocarina of Time. Majora's Mask was Young Link. Half of Ocarina of Time was Young Link. Wind Waker was Toon Link, which is really Young Link. All the Four Swords games, the Minish Cap. So do I hope they use Young Link more? No, I hope they use Adult Link more, because they don't use Adult Link enough. Number 2 of Nintendo's questions. Will we see a Zelda game where we get a decent amount of gameplay as Zelda? No. 3. What kind of new items would you like to see in future Zelda games, such as Skyward Sword? If I really have to answer this question, I really have to answer this question. A steampunk gun, come on! Come on! I said that guns wouldn't be in Zelda, which means I'm never going to get my Steampunk Zelda, because if it's Steampunk Zelda, it's gotta have a steam gun. And it's never going to have a gun, or a steam gun, or any kind of steam anything. I don't know why. Question 4. Maldrea asks, in Twilight Princess, the final series of boss battles was different from traditional boss battles. Instead of fighting a foe who gets stronger and bigger, and seemingly more impossible to beat, such as in Ocarina of Time, when Ganondorf turns into Ganon, the end boss's forms go from bigger to smaller, the beast fighting on horseback, and then on foot. Any thoughts on why the designers went against the grain with the final fight in Twilight Princess? Yeah, I do have a thought, and it might make sense. So when you're fighting a large boss, I'm thinking of it kind of like a pyramid of pressure and impact upon the end of the game. And normally you'd start at the top and you'd work your way down to this giant boss fight at the bottom. And then the whole thing would blow up and there'd be this ginormous explosion of an ending. In Twilight Princess, it's the opposite. You fight the giant beast up here and then you work your way down and you hit it at the point at the end. I think Twilight Princess's model is a bit more poignant and powerful. That isn't to say that it's more epic. I think fighting a humongous monster at the end of the game is more epic. But I think Nintendo wanted to make a point about Ganon, that there has to be something relatable. Link can relate to Ganon in Twilight Princess, because when he finishes him, Ganon is a man. Just a man. Not a mythological creature, not something in between a mythological creature and a human, not a human with an otherworldly advantage, just Ganon. This is pretty poignant. So I think that's why they did it, because they wanted to make something more powerful. Perhaps not as epic, but at the very least more powerful than what was in Ocarina of Time. Question 8. Kicker1015 asks, in the last mailbag, me, said that Ganondorf would probably be in Skyward Sword, but how can he be in it if the game takes place long before his birth? Excellent question. How can somebody be somewhere before they're born? Keep in mind, you're talking about a series that is known for its wacky timelines and people that never go away. Ganon has come back from the dead, or back from impenetrable prisons. He's going to probably come back from being encased in stone with a sword stabbed through his forehead in The Wind Waker. I don't see how it's impossible that he could be back before he's born. Let me explain, because that's going to mess with your brain. See, what if, and this is really what if, Ganon himself wasn't really Ganon, but just a Gerudo boy who had, say, gotten the essence of the evil that is Ganon at his birth. You would have an intangible essence of evil that you can then place pretty much anywhere in the point of history. Or Skyward Sword could talk about the origin of that essence of evil, and you'd have this little ball of evil darkness like Homunculus in Full Metal Alchemist, that then breeds this evilness. Perhaps Skyloft is kept aloft by this power. And that is what creates the plot twist where you go down to the evil things in Hyrule, but it was really Skyloft with the evil all along, and so they released the evil from Skyloft and it travels down to Hyrule, where it embeds itself in the Gerudo child. So it's not really Ganon, but it's the essence of evil that is Ganon, so it's probably going to be called Ganon anyway. Because really, Ganon is not the man, Ganon is the evil, and the pig thing, the evil pig thing. I can't believe it, but it's time for the last question. Hayden Smith asks, what would you think about a modern-day Zelda game that's more like an RPG, leveling up, upgrading armor and skills, and having things along those lines? I really am not entirely sure how to answer your question, because I like RPGs, and I like Zelda. But I liken Zelda to more like a concept, where you have these series of games that all share similar gameplay mechanics. Kind of like what happened to BioShock. BioShock was a game with a concrete character and place and setting and time, but they threw that away when they made BioShock Infinite, because they wanted to turn BioShock into a concept, not just a franchise, but a concept. This kind of conceptually driven franchise is what makes Final Fantasy, and what enables them to do different characters in a different world every game, but it still feels like Final Fantasy because they use the same gameplay mechanics. I think if they made a Zelda an RPG, it wouldn't really feel like Zelda. Okami feels like Zelda, and Okami is a great game, and Chugga Conrad is doing a Let's Play of it right now. If you've never, ever seen Okami, shame on you, or played Okami, double shame on you. Go check it out, because it exemplifies what I feel of as a Zelda as a concept, a gameplay concept, rather than this solid Link in a box with Zelda and Ganon thing that they're doing now. So Zelda as an RPG would probably be pretty interesting. But I think it's kind of like asking the question, what would Zelda be like if they turned it into a shooter? Oh, wait. That's all I got for you guys. You all sent in some really good questions, and it was really tough for me to pick which ones to answer. And I mean that. Keep doing it. That was awesome. More good questions. Send them in. Link in the description. Things like that. I'll see you next week with another mailbag from me to you.